warm welcome to all the delegates that we have. Let us start with the session, starting with the panelists, Dr. Harshvansh Lal, Dr. Shroff, Professor Sudarshan Kumar Phokkar, Dr. Lal, Dr. Chaudhary.
And Dr. Lal again.
Yeah.
Over to the panelists. You can take over, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So, good evening, everybody. So, we are going to start this session. As we know that this session is my voice clear?
Yeah, it's clear.
So, as you know, this session is primarily on the capsulotomy, and we have got the galaxy of speakers with us. So, I'll be introducing the subject. So this is our plan. Introduction and basic techniques will be covered by me. Then manual capsulotomy in Morgan cataract by Dr. Ashok Shroff. Capsulotomy in soft and epileptic cataract by Dr. Phokkar. Jepto CCC by Dr. Ikeda Lal. Femto second laser assisted CCC by Dr. Rajiv Chaudhary, and runaway access bring it back by Noxious Shroff. And Phaco in presence of runaway access by myself. So let's start with the basics. And when we come to the basics of capsular access, it is very important for the beginners to do the proper betadine cleaning so that the lipid layer is removed. The visibility should be good. You should do the capsulotomy on a high magnification. Set the chin and the eyeball of the patient in such a way that you get a good reflex. Pupil should be well dilated and chamber should be deep. When you make a cystosome, I usually prefer the 70-degree turn of the needle instead of 45 or 90. 90, the tip is not visible, causes indentation on the capsule, and 45, you do not get a good grip. And trypan glue in the beginning should be used. So now I'll be showing you the basis of the capsular access. If you see that, you give a 1.5 millimeter cut in the central part, and then have the imaginary line how big you want to have an access, and lift the flap up to have a curvilinear extension. Usually we target for the 5 millimeter axis, and what we call as a tangential force. If you draw a central line and a line perpendicular to that is a tangential force, and you give the force tangentially. If any time you want to enlarge the axis, then the force will be more than 90-degree from the tangent, and whenever you want to bring it in, it will be less than 90-degree. As in this case, we want to bring the axis in, which is going out. So we'll be slightly pulling it towards the inside. And once it comes to the desired level, that means where you had a plan, then again you will use the tangential force to keep it over there. And if by any chance it goes in and it's becoming short, then this angle will be, that means we'll be pushing the cut end more towards the periphery, it will be more than 90-degree. So this way you can control and monitor the axis. And ultimately from outside in, you complete the axis. So this is very important to practice this. Now I'll be showing some axis for that. So this is the needle axis. These are unedited video. So cut from the slightly left of the center, and then give a 1.5 millimeter cut. Lift upwards, not only pushing downwards, and leave the cortical fibers behind as far as possible. Do not disturb the cortical fibers. Gently keep on rotating, keeping the track how the axis is moving. Do not see how you are moving your hand, how you are moving your needle. And usually I keep the viscoelastic filled in a syringe so that if any time chamber is becoming shallow, I can inject the viscoelastic. Then you complete the axis from outside in to get a beautiful, perfect axis. And in this case, because the red reflex is good, so we are not stained. But if the red reflex is not good, you need to stain. You need to practice the axis not only by the needle, but also by the faucet. You should also practice clockwise, anti-clockwise. But many times you may land up into the difficult situation. So try to practice like I'm usually use the needle, so I'm much more comfortable using the needle. But still, I use once in a while, I do use faucet to keep me in touch with the faucet axis. And particularly it becomes very, very crucial and important when you are handling with the soft cataract when you are handling the pediatric cataract, of course, you cannot make a rexus with the needle. You will have to use the forceps, and this is the reason that you need to practice both ways, and you will have to keep on adjusting every time so that it remains circular and it does not run away periphery. Anytime you feel that the pressure is low in the eye, you inject the viscoelastic. Not low, I mean it should be normal pressure. You don't have to really highly pressurize the eyeball. IOP up around 20-25 is good enough. You don't have to go to 30-35, and should not be low like 10 when you are getting the dimpling. So now I was pulling on this direction. Now you see that I changed the direction. I've taken the forceps out because now I'm using the another end of the incision to go towards this side. So the direction of my forceps was not accurate for completing the rexus. So sometimes you might have to do the start with the needle rexus, and whenever you feel that you are not comfortable, the capsule is getting cut, you might have to go back to the forceps. So in this case, we use the combination of the two. That means we are using the needle rexus, and after doing initial part, and when we feel that we are going to cut the capsule and we are not comfortable because of the soft base, as in this case, the visibility was not so good because of the central cataract and a cortical cataract in the anterior part. So we have done a staining of the capsule. So now when we are trying to pull it, actually the capsule is getting torn over there. Capsule is very fragile over here. And once we don't feel comfortable continuing with the needle, we switch over to the forceps. So this is the reason that we need to practice both types of rexus, whether it is with the needle or the forceps. You can see that I am trying to pull it, but I'm not able to do it. And I place the capsule always in this center. Keep on putting the cut capsule into the center instead of keeping it into the periphery. So now I'll go with the forceps and then complete the rexus. So you must have a good pair of rexus forceps always with you, and preferably even if you are not using it in routine, and it should be ETO'd or sterilized and kept in the reserve. Now I think soft cataract will be covered by the Dr. Coker. I hope he comes. Now another important point is that this is the rexus. If you see that I started slightly towards the right hand side, and the central cut end is on the right hand side. So this will act as a pivot, and the rexus will become eccentric. So whenever you get this type and you're not able to turn the flap, and in this case we try to turn it, then you release the rexus in the center, this part, release it over here so that the flap can be properly turned and you can proceed with the proper size rexus. And if you can see this rexus is slightly covered on the left hand side, more onto the optics. So what we do is that you can leave it as such, but it's better to reshape it, and do not worry too much even if it is slightly bigger or larger, but it's a good idea to reshape it. And this is the one area where again you will need the forceps. So you need to practice both forceps and needle. So now we'll go to the next talk. So I'll stop sharing my screen. Next talk is by Dr. Ashok Sharaf, I think.
Yes.
So please
Yes,
share your screen.
can you see my screen?
We can see your face, not the presentation.
Not the screen? My goodness. Same problem. Arey yaar. You can't see the screen?
No, sir. You share the screen, sir.
I already shared the screen.
Sir, open your first PPT.
Open the,
PPT.
where is it? Okay.
So it should be open, the PPT should be open on your laptop, sir. Now come back to Zoom
Share the screen. Yes.
share screen. On basic itself, you will be, yes.
Yes, yes.
Sure?
Yeah.
Good, good,
Yes,
good,
sir,
good.
yes.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you, Dr. Harbans Lal, for having me invited to this course, beautiful course, because you have been a master in the FECO. You have written so many good books, and I'll share my experience with the manual Rexis in hypermature morgage and cataract. See, the Rexis extension is very common in such cases, and because of so many reasons, the capsule is very thin or maybe hard, or there is very important factor is the high intralentucular pressure. Now you can see, suppose you don't take care of this, what happens? You see that, see it splits and you have a problem, right? And suppose you are still little careless, a very hypermature cataract, you see that I have tried to use with the FECO probe and you can see this is extended. So you have to be very careful, and to make good Rexis, debulking to reduce the high intraocular pressure is a key factor. You must debulk, and that too with the fully formed anterior chamber with good quality visco. And if you are not comfortable, try to make small rexes and then center and then enlarge. See here, I'm trying to show the rexes made with the needle. See that the after this it is stained, and then gradually this can be done. It's a good advantage is you can do the from the side port. You can see the main incision here, but still you can do it from the side port. While for the rexes and for the forceps, it is better you go from the main wound. Then again you can see that the rexis is being made by the forceps, but here you just carefully watch. Here is go little out of way, but so far so it remains. See, then you have to inject the visco, form the chamber, and again you continue. But make sure that the rexis margin remains regular. It should not torn or should not extend. See, this is extended, but then it's a regular axis, so there is no problem. We go back, we move further. Now you can see that here the rexis. This is very old video. Earlier we did not have good gadgets. At that time the fluid would escape. The milky fluid is all fluid cortex. So we must allow the fluid cortex to escape out of the chamber, go on forming the visco chamber, and then do the rexis. Now debulking. This is very important. You can see that now I am trying to debulk with the Stellaris FECO probe, vacuum being 500. I am very careful this time. Only central part, just debulk, and then once it is done, form the chamber, and you can see that you can very beautifully make the rexis. However, you have to be careful. That carefulness, proper attention is a must. Is a must. Then of late we have developed this technique. You can see here, we have introduced 20 scotch half an inch sharp needle through the side port under the capsule. And you can see that the cortex, the fluid of the cortex is being aspirated. So the pressure is reduced now. Form the chamber. It is edited, of course. Form the chamber, and then you can make the rexis. You can see that it is very round, good.
Hello.
And there is less chances of getting extended. So this is of very small gadget, 26 gauge needle, very cheap, very less expensive, and you can still go ahead with that. The important point is, right, then here is another case. I tried to aspirate the cortex, but it didn't. Only the fluid escaped. But still it was in the anterior chamber, and the controlled fashion, you have to aspirate it and see there is the dye has come out into the anterior. It was debulked nicely. The pressure was reduced interlenticular. Again, form the chamber with the good viscoelastic, and then you can continue with the rexis. However, you make sure that your pressure, the force should be centripetal and it should not extend, because you have to keep in mind that the capsules sometimes they cheat you. So the take-home message is the Rexis extension is very common in hyperimmature Morgellons cataract due to high intralenticular pressure, and to prevent it, debulking to reduce high lenticular pressure is key point, and that too, once you must keep the anterior chamber fully formed with good quality visco. However, in some cases, if you can, you have to make initial small Rexis and then you enlarge it. Thank you very much, everybody. Did you hear me, Rajiv?
Yeah.
Next, I think Dr. Rajiv Chaudhary will be giving his talk on a femto.
You are not audible.
Audible, sir, audible.
Hello?
Hello? Yes, sir.
Yeah, Dr. Rajiv Chaudhary will be
Hello?
giving his talk on a femto CCC.
Should I start?
Yeah, Dr.
What
Rajiv.
happened?
Please.
Good evening, friends. My
Hello?
topic is femtolaser assisted capsulorhexis. As capsulorhexis is an important part of your phaco surgery, this is one of the most important and crucial part of the rhexis. The femtolaser assists you in capsulorhexis, lens fragmentation, and corneal incision. But we are going to cover only the rhexis part of it. As we know that 20-year journey capsular, there was the crude opening, then cane opener, then continuous curvular capsulorhexis, that different. So ideal capsular size should overlap IOL optic 0.25 to 0.5 mm, 360 degree. So to give effective lens pushing, close to target spherical equivalent and less cylinder, a better uncorrected distance visuality, less spherical aberration and tilt, and give the better quality of vision, less glare, less halo, less contrast sensitivity. So what are the limitations? Why we should go for femtolaser assisted capsulorhexis? What is the limitation in manual capsulorhexis? It is varied in size, not centered. So leave apart some good surgeon, senior surgeon, experienced surgeon, they may mimic this, but not exactly so round. And that give a variable IOL position and effective lens power. Capsular tear, posterior capsular opacification, and that's chances of manual error. So objective is to increase the safety, improve the precision, and automate, undependent on the component. So it's the independent of surgeon's skill. So everybody can perform the quality of the rhexis as with the machine. You can see how round it is and slightly irregularity. Sometimes may it cover and can give the glare. So pupil size capsule should be set to 1.5 mm less than pupil to avoid laser shock, and I usually keep 0.5 mm. So avoid laser shock that causes miosis and inflammation, and people get constricted after the femtolaser. We keep the capsular size 5 to 5.5 mm according to size of intraocular lens. So less than 5 mm can lead to the capsular phimosis, posterior placement of intraocular lens, and may lead to hyperopic shift. So what are the stages? So you should have to plan in according whether there's subluxated cataract, small pupil. Then you have to engage the femto machine with the cornea, visualization, and the customization according to the patient, and then treatment. This is how I have using the LENSAR machine since last 5 years. It is just how you dock it. This is the cornea coming in contact with the femto machine, and just you have to lock it. So what are the points you should take care in the femoral? Spot spacing, as we are doing in femtolaser in refractive surgery also, is dense spot scanning with low energy setting, give a better quality of cut. Like this, if you have spots spacing 3 micron apart, number of takes per capsulotomy is very minimum as compared to if you keep in 7 micron away. So ideal parameter for femtosecond assisted anterior capsulotomy is you should keep it 2 to 3 micron apart, vertical and horizontal. So this is hypermature cataract is a LENSAR machine. This is the pupil. This is the corneal plane. This is a Scheimpflug imaging system. It automatically sees the density of nucleus also. Once you are logged, if cornea not detected because just you shift it up. The machine guide you each parameter. This is a hypermature cataract. The machine is taking multiple images of the, and this is the planning. How it is planning is, you can see, this is arcade also planning, 4 cruciate. And this is the planning. We are just firing the machine. The machine will give that you are coming close to the anterior capsule. And this is a 4 cut they are making because it's a hypermature cataract. It doesn't give a deep penetration. This is the round cut. You may stand, try to see whether it is just stand initially, so you can identify the take. And many times, 80%, 90% time, it is free floating capsulotomy. It just come out and you can perform your phaco perfectly well within. This is again the hypermature. You can see the precise round capsulorhexis, and just whenever you try to do pull it in the radial direction, and you can complete your rhexis. So this give an accurate rhexis. Now this is, suppose this is a small pupil. The machine automatically take the whatever preset you have, keep at a 0.5 micron, 50 micron or 150 micron away from the pupillary margin, and then the nucleus pattern. And once it is done, you can perform this your inside mid-dilated pupil very well. One of the most important point is the subluxated cataract, where it is very difficult. You can see that it is planned on the anterior capsule and the center of the nucleus. You will see that it was a very subluxated cataract, and you can see that soft cataract round rhexis, which is impossible to do the manually. And you can perform that surgery very well, because otherwise if you do manually, you will stretch rest of the granule. In this, I have removed this, then implanted the endocapsular ring, suture with that, and I am able to place the lens in the posterior compartment. Sorry, I just missed. You can see, remove the capsule and then put 3 pleats, which was probably otherwise may not have been possible when we are going to do the manually. And this is the exact positioning with the femtolaser, and you can see the manual rhexis. So advantage of femtolaser assisted capsulorhexis, laser center and size the capsulorhexis very accurately, create the exact size, locate it exactly where you want it to be, especially useful for mature cataract and subluxated lens. A laser capsule may not always be complete. Surgeon should be conservative when pulling the capsule during hydrodissection and nucleus, because the margin is slightly rough as compared to the manual. They can leave takes, bridges, demarcation and rough edges, because you can see this is the femto-assisted margin and this is the manual where is the sharp. This is histopathological appearance of the 3 micron placement, 5 micron placement, and 7 micron that give a more take. So you have to calculate advantage and disadvantage. It is this an increased cost, added time, but it increased your precision, enhanced reproducibility, and improved safety. There are other devices which probably Ikeda is going to cover. So in conclusion, perfection, femtolaser assisted capsulorhexis give perfection. Surgeon increase confirm, make femtolaser capsulorhexis the technique of choice, especially in intumescent white cataract where the risk of the capsulorhexis running away is much more. You are planning premium oil. Thank you. Thank you, Arvind. Arvind, you are muted.
Manage the runaway rhexis and how to bring it back. Dr. Nausir Sharaf, please.
Kindly unmute yourself, Dr. Naushir.
Hello.
To share your PPT, just a guidance, doctor, that first you have to open the PPT on your laptop.
That's what I'm trying to do. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. But there's something showing as whiteboard. Whiteboard.
Why is it not showing desktop?
Yes,
No,
yes,
sir.
yes. Now.
Go window
No.
like it
The
here.
whiteboard, sir, not the PPT.
Just come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Press that. Press that or press this even. Okay.
Share. Now I'm sharing the screen.
Yes. Sir, just tell me whether the PPT is there opened on your laptop first.
Okay.
No, it was not opened on the laptop first.
Okay.
First, open the PPT on your laptop, sir.
Okay. Okay.
No. First you'll have to get out from here.
The PPT on my screen.
Stop sharing.
It has stopped sharing.
Yeah. Okay. So now go to your laptop.
Laptop is here. Yeah.
No, 1 second.
Now the
Sir,
PPT.
हाँ, डॉक्टर नौशीर जूम को मिनिमाइज कर दीजिए पहले.
इसको मिनिमाइज करो ना ये नहीं.
जूम को मिनिमाइज कर दीजिए.
हाँ.
ओपन यूर.
Yeah.
Now
Open
open
it.
this. Yeah. Okay. No, now you go to share screen.
हाँ, now open again the zoom को.
इसको इधर आइए. इसको यहाँ.
वापस जूम को सिलेक्ट करिए.
इधर नहीं, इसको नहीं, इधर, इसको नहीं, इधर. हाँ. Okay. Now go to share screen. Now with
Green, हाँ. Yes, yes.
Yes, sir, we can see it now.
now you want to make it bigger here. Here. Just do what.
Yes.
Here you are.
Saving the congratulations, Harpan, for your. Yeah. I'm starting my presentation now. I'm going to show you only the surgeries. Now, this is a poor visualization of the recess because the got bunched up. You can see that the rexis has got bunched up, and you cannot see the edge of the rexis very well. So what you have to do is you have to inject viscoelastic as much as possible and see that you are able to see the edge of this rexis very well. And this is how it comes if you unbunch it. Secondly, you should try to cross the subincisional area with one swing, because it is a subincisional area in which the rexis is not very easily visible. And therefore, you should see that you cross it in one swing. Now, this is a rexis trying to run off. You can see that you brought the rexis nicely up to this place. And now it's trying to run off to the periphery. Now, how do we get it back to the center? Instead of this thing, we use a 23 gauge forceps from the side port and try to get it. And now from the main incision, and try to get this peripheral rexis back to the center. Because in this case, you have to maintain a deep chamber and see that you use a 23 gauge forceps, which can go through a 1.2 millimeter incision, and so that you can maintain a deep chamber throughout. And this is very necessary, and this is where the 23 gauge forceps are very, very useful. Now again, this is again a CCC trying to run to the periphery. As you will see, you're going on well with the rexis. And suddenly it starts going to the periphery. You can see the edge quite well, and it's going to the periphery. We inject viscoelastic and then try again and apply tangential forces, but again it is not going to the center, even in spite of all the tangential forces with the needle. So now what we do is that we can see the edge quite well here just now, and we see that it's now pointing towards the periphery. So as it is pointing towards the periphery, I inject viscoelastic again. And then again try with a needle. And the needle I try centripetally. I try to guide this flap centripetally with my needle. But again, I find that it's not going, the rexus is again moving to the periphery and not coming to the center. So I abandoned this and I tried with the forceps from the main wound. But again, this does not work. So I abandon this again, and then I make a side port incision. And then I use my 23 gauge capsular rexus forceps from the side, from a side port, which maintains a very adequate anterior chamber. And the forces are also directed tangentially. And you must remember that whenever you do this, you should be away from the tearing edge, because if you are near the tearing edge, you will not get this rexus perfectly, and it will go more to the periphery. Now this is a intumescent cataract, and you see that this is a cataract in which the rexus can go to the periphery very easily. We're trying to do this. We make what we do is we make a small rexus. First and complete this rexus, but this rexus is not adequate for phacoemulsification. This is a little too small for phacoemulsification. So we make two side ports. We have two side ports now. We debulk the nucleus as much as we can. And then we make a nick with the capsular 23 gauge capsular rexus forceps. And then we make the rexus a little larger, extend the rexus a little larger, so that otherwise this rexus would have definitely gone to the periphery. And so we do that on the other side also. Make a nick on the other side on the rexus margin. And again, extend this rexus so that we have a larger rexus, and we can do a phacoemulsification very easily. And this is the rexus we've got finally. This is again a intumescent cataract. We started with this rexus. Again, we thought the chamber was deep, but you can see that the rexus is tending to go towards the periphery. And before we could say anything, we find that suddenly it has gone to the, it's gone to the periphery. Now what we do is we try the other side. Deepen the chamber with Helon GV. Make a nick on the other side. And again, it's by the time we made a nick, it spread on the other side like an Argentinian flag sign. Now we are left with, so we complete this rhexis. Now we don't have adequate space. So we try to create a space to do the phacoemulsification. You got this little tag, which is we cut later, but before that, we make a nick in the rhexis with the spatula behind the rhexis and then with the needle. And then we extend this rhexis so that we have now adequate space for the phaco. And this tag can be cut. So I have 3 minutes more. And now Dr. Harbans will show the phaco in an extended rhexis, but this is how it looked like after I had finished the case. Again, this is the trypan blue, the capsule has been stained trypan blue, and we have the 23 gauge forceps is an extremely good tool to use whenever there's a Morganian cataract and to maintain a deep chamber without losing viscoelastic. And I find this is, everybody should possess it in the OT, especially when you are starting a Morganian or a hypermature cataract with a shallow anterior chamber. As you can see, it's trying to go to the periphery, but again, I am applying tangential forces. Chamber remains formed because there can be no leakage through this small incision, which is only 1.2, and we are able to complete the rhexis. So these are the ways you can use to prevent the rhexis from going to the periphery. Thank you very much. Dr. Harbans? Doctor.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. It was really, really very nice surgical videos that you showed, sir. I think Dr. Harbanslal has gone to another hall. I think he has a subsequent meeting going on.
But I can see him on the screen.
Yes, he's.
That's Ikeda?
Yes.
You can take over.
Sure, sir. So the next talk, if somebody else would like to start with the next talk, otherwise I can start my talk in the order that is showing. Dr. Ashok Shroff, has he finished his talk? I was
Ashok Shroff has finished. Everybody except you. Dr. Khokhar has not come.
Okay.
And
so
this is your talk now on Zepto.
Sure, sir. I will just share my screen. So can I request you to stop screen share? Then I can share my screen, sir. Yeah. I will start my talk on Zepto. Thank you, sir. A very good evening to you all. Today I will be talking about Zepto capsulotomy or the pulse precision capsulotomy system. So this technique is helpful in making us have quick anterior capsulorhexis. It is reproducible and precise. It has a very small console here, as we can see in this picture, and therefore it can be placed in the same OR. It is also relatively inexpensive when we compare it to the femtosecond laser. This is especially useful for patients who have corneal opacities and poorly dilating pupils, as even femtosecond laser-assisted cataract surgery can be really challenging in these patients. How does this device work? We have a handpiece on which there is a silicone suction cup which houses a nitinol ring. This is the nitinol ring through which the electrical discharge passes through and leads in a cut of the capsulotomy. there is a push rod which can change the shape of this suction cup. When the suction is delivered, that precision pulse capsulotomy device attaches itself to the anterior lens capsule. Then we deliver a short electrical discharge for just 4 milliseconds, which energizes the nitinol ring. This causes rapid phase transition of the trapped water molecules and instantaneous mechanical cleavage of the anterior capsule. What can we expect with this device? That we have a perfectly round 5.2 millimeter in size rhexis with upturned margins which resist tearing. So in cadaveric eyes, it has been demonstrated that the capsular rhexis that we attain with Zepto is actually stronger than manual and femtosecond laser, and it resists tearing a little bit more. What does the literature tells us? So this is a study which compares the precision pulse capsulotomy versus the manual technique. And here, especially in patients who require toric IOL, the residual cylinder was less than 0.5 diopter, which was significant as compared to the manual group. This is another paper on Indian eyes published by the LV Prasad group, and they compared the femtosecond laser, the manual, as well as the Zepto technique, and they concluded that there was no difference in the visual outcome of the patients. Now let's look at the surgical videos. Here I have a mature cataract, mature white cataract, and as Dr. Naushir has wonderfully demonstrated, it is very challenging to do a manual capsular rhexis in these cases. So here I'm using my Zepto device. When we go in, the shape is oval so that we can easily enter through a 2.2 millimeter incision. Once we are inside the chamber, we can center the device, retract the push rod so that we have a nice circular suction cup. Then we attach it to the anterior capsule and keep the suction on. We see these bubbles moving. Once these bubbles become stable, it means that we have achieved adequate suction, and this is the electrical discharge being given. Then we release the suction and we have a nicely cut round capsulorhexis at the end of this. Now, this is another case. Here we have a relatively, regular cataract with NS2 nuclear sclerosis. And again, we are using the Zepto capsulotomy device. A tip to center this device is to look at the Purkinje image. That's how we can achieve a good centration. Initially, there might be a tendency towards making nasal CC as we likely to do temporal clear corneal incisions. So again, by the end of this, I have removed the Zepto device, and it looks like we have a nice round capsulorhexis. But notice here, as soon as we are going ahead with our hydro procedure, we tent up the capsule and we push in the fluid. This anterior capsule just gives away and it tears. So this probably happened because of overinflation of the bag. And this is what the capsule looks like at the end of the surgery. This is the IOL in place. So this can happen with this device. Now, this is another case of a mature intumescent cataract where a toric IOL has been planned, and we are using the Zepto device to create a rhexis. We can see how intumescent this lens is by the sheer amount of cortex that comes out. And once we are done with this, we examine and we see that there is a tag here actually which remains uncut, and the Zepto has not been able to achieve a round rhexis. So we go ahead and nick it with the scissors and then lift the flap and using the forceps. Again, there is another flap which we can see which is floating. So we do not want to have this while doing the phacoemulsification. So we remove that flap as well. So we have a slightly larger than what we would like, slightly eccentric rhexis. This is a case where we have a very calcified anterior capsule, a complicated cataract post-RK. So our incision is a little limbal, small pupil as we can see. So very, very difficult to do a manual rhexis. So we thought we will go ahead with the Zepto capsulotomy device. And this fibrotic plaque actually remains uncut even with the Zepto, although the Zepto has managed to cut everywhere else, but this fibrotic plaque has not been cut very well. So then we decide to place in the Malaghan ring after the Zepto because we did not want too many instruments in the anterior chamber. And then this residual fibrotic plaque is actually being excised with the help of forceps and scissors. And then the surgery could be completed with ease. Now we have learned that this means that Zepto cannot cut the fibrotic plaque. So this is a patient again where we have a mature, hypermature cataract with this calcified fibrotic plaque. So here we planned for an eccentric rhexis so as to keep this entire fibrotic plaque inside the rhexis and not at the edge, so that we can achieve a clean cut. So we were successful in doing this, and this on suction release, we can see that the entire plaque has come inside this Zepto device, and it is inside the rhexis opening. And although we have an eccentric rhexis which was planned deliberately in this case, the surgery could be completed with ease. Now, this is a patient with a intumescent cataract, and we are always scared of the Argentinian flag sign in these cases. As soon as we apply the suction, the capsule just tears. But the interesting thing was that the tear is limited within the suction cup of the capsule, and it doesn't extend to actually form the Argentinian flag sign. Now, again, it was a little difficult to release the suction in this case, and the nucleus somehow got stuck to this suction device. And then with repeated attempts, we could finally release the suction and remove these tags and go ahead with our phaco emulsification. So these are some of the things that can happen, although it's a very good system, but still we can have these kind of cases where we have a few complications. So the take home message here is that it's a safe and precise capsulotomy device, especially useful in intumescent cataracts, patients with calcified capsules, or patients with corneal opacity. We must try to keep the handpiece well centered, focusing on the first Purkinje image, and there might be a tendency towards making nasal CC in temporal incisions, especially in the first few cases. A gentle hydrodissection or decompression before hydrodissection might be ideal, as we saw from the case there that we did hydro, and suddenly, because of the increased pressure in the bag, the anterior capsule gave away. A word of caution in patients with weak zonules, although even the manual rhexis is very difficult in patients who have zonular dialysis, and this device appears to be safer in patients with weaker zonules than flax. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Dr. Ikeda. And now Dr. Sudarshan Kokal will be just joining us. So first I'll present my case and how to do perfect surgery in cases of rhexis margin tear or runaway rhexis. Why this is not moving? Hello.
Sir, can you click in the center of the PPT once? Yes.
So I'll be just showing you this video. This was a patient who had the IOP around 54 millimeter of mercury for last 1 week or so and came from a village, and the chamber was very, very shallow. We gave a retrovertebral block and did the massage for 15 minutes to lower the IOP. And in spite of that, when I inject the air, you will see that there's hardly any space and the air cannot go inside. So now we tried to stain the capsule and gave a iris hook placed on that side to get a very good dilatation. And I further staining it because I know that it is going to run away. So the peripheral part of this capsule was not stained initially because of the small capsule. So you can put the dye even after putting the viscoelastic. There is nothing wrong. It still you will be having a better visibility. And if you see my iris hooks are placed in a trapezoid fashions. That means they are close to the incision or very close to each other, so that the pupillary border goes underneath the internal lip of the cornea, and it does not keep on rubbing onto your phaco probe. So you can see that, as was expected, this rhexis runs away, and these cases would have been very difficult by any method, whether Jepto or Femto, because there is central corneal opacity also, and maybe Femto would have been possible, but for Jepto also the space was too less. And once it has run away, we do not want the capsule to come while doing the phaco, so we release and cut it over here. And we need to now, I mean, it makes no difference whether the cut is on the one side or two sides, because once it is a conal cut, it is a conal cut, and it is going to get extended further. So now we need to have a good clear space in the central area to perform the phaco emulsification. We have got a lot of liquid fluid. Now we cut it over there. We do the cut the capsule with the scissor and remove the part of the capsule to make sure, and luckily this area where we are going to perform the most of the phaco is round and strong, and then we remove this tag also to avoid it coming into the phaco probe. Now we got this absolutely central clear area over there. Now, because of our hook position, the iris is not getting rubbed with the phaco probe. If you would have kept the normal square hooks, the iris would have been lifted up, and with such a shallow chamber, we would have really kept on rubbing the iris and might have caused the dialysis. So in this case, we need to have a little more wider trench instead of doing a direct chop to create and debulk it, to create a space in the central part of the eye. And once this space is good enough and some amount of debulking is done, then we will divide this nucleus into two. Normally, you may not do that much of a trenching or sculpting, but because of the constraint of the space, now the important thing is that we should not give too much pressure into the periphery. Do very gentle separation and make sure that the at least pressure is not onto this site where the capsule has been cut. Now we prolapse this. The nucleus is not very hard. I mean, it is of course mature, but not very hard. And the phaco parameters are little on the lower side. Normally, if I operate at a 550 or 500, in this case, it will be 400 millimeter of mercury of pressure. Flow rate also it will be a little on the lower side, so that the chamber stability is always maintained. So I personally feel that now this half of the nucleus is left. We are just prolapsing it. We are not rotating it. And because it can get collapsed very easily because of the Morganian cataract, and we try to rotate, they are both the sides, they are cut capsular extension, so it may run away over there. So just collapse it, emulsify it. And the key point is always maintain a good chamber depth throughout the surgery. So this is very, very crucial and critical. Now the nucleus is gone, and we put on remove the epinucleus as far as possible, and then we inject a viscoelastic because this is very difficult to remove the subincisional by the phaco probe, and we will do this by bimanual irrigation aspiration. So my preferred bimanual technique is what I call as a modified bimanual. So I use the main port for the infusion, and this is kept, the cannula is kept obliquely so that there is no leakage. Only disadvantage is if you keep it straight, it will leak. So you can see a good capsule, and you can see the quite a large corneal opacity. Again, we inject a viscoelastic before withdrawing the infusion port so that the chamber is maintained. When the chamber collapses, the vitreous may try to bulge forward, and the rexus may run into the peripheral part or into the posterior part. So once this is done, we put on a IUL. And in these cases, of course, normally I do hydroimplantation, but not in these cases. And the loop are placed in such a way that they do not get entangled with the cut margins. And this surgery is complete. And another important point I will like to emphasize upon, that there are two types of rexus margin tears or extension. One is the curvilinear. When you are making a rexus, it goes towards the periphery. So if it is a curvilinear extension, the chances of running to the posterior capsule are much less as compared to the conal. This is what happens in a mature or Morganian cataract. You get a conal extension which has got a much higher incidence of running to the posterior capsule. But whenever you are making a young patients and it goes to the periphery, the chances of it's running to the posterior capsule are much less, so far more safer. So thank you very much for your kind attention. Let's see if Dr. Khokar has joined. Dr. Khokar, are you there?
No, sir, I cannot see him in the session.
Actually, he has not. Do you have the link for this all? Can you send it to him?
Let me call him, sir. Let me see what.
He called me that he is not getting the link. So I called up the office to give him this, send him the link again.
All right. I'll look into it, sir.
Yeah, please send him the link. So as soon as he comes, let me know so that. Meanwhile.
Can we have a discussion in the meanwhile?
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. So meanwhile, by the time Fokker joins,
I wanted to ask something from Ikeda. Ikeda is there?
Yes,
Yes.
sir. I'm here. I'm here, sir.
You in this Zepto cataract, you mentioned then when you pulled the ring out, you got a tear in the anterior capsule in one of the cases.
So actually, the tear which happened was not when we pulled the ring out. I think you're talking about the extension of the second case that I showed, right? Where there was an
extension of the rexis took place.
Yes. Yes, so actually what happened in that case was that when we pulled the Zepto probe out, it was nice and round and circular. There was no tear at all. But as soon as we did the hydro dissection, that's when the tear happened. So, so retrospectively now in hindsight, I feel that when we are releasing the suction, the fluid comes out from this device to release the suction, and that went inside the bag and overinflated the bag. That's when we performed a hydro dissection, and that's the reason why the anterior capsular tear happened in that case, sir. So now I'm a little more careful, especially I try to decompress or just nudge the lens a little bit down before I go ahead with my hydro procedure after doing Zepto capsulotomy.
One mistake that I have made is that I have not released the suction by mistake, and I've tried to pull the thing out. So, I was able to detach it from the anterior capsule. But at one position it remained adherent, and when we pulled it, we had a tear in the anterior capsule. So we have to be very careful that you should achieve a complete this thing.
Suction release.
Yeah.
Happened in the last case that I showed, sir, the intumescent cataract that I was showing. In that, the lens somehow just got stuck with the suction to the silicone cup, and even though we pressed the release suction button twice, it just did not let go of that lens. And after pressing 2-3 times is when we actually managed to release the suction. So like you rightly said, sir, that we must ensure that the suction has been released to ideally see a fluid gush before we actually pull out the Zepto device. That's a very useful tip, sir.
And the second thing is that you can even puncture the ring, so that when you puncture the ring, so the suction will be released immediately.
Yes.
You go from a side port, take a needle and puncture the ring.
Yes.
So that is another method by which you can release. Sometimes that is one thing I've. The other thing I've put is when you have you don't have a proper cut is that you are a little hesitant to push down the anterior capsule, and therefore you don't get an uneven cut, and there are some tags left. So because you've not pressed down, you are a little hesitant to press down on the anterior capsule with the tenolol ring.
Yes, sir. That is very
actually, Dr. Naushe,
proper cover of the anterior lens capsule, like you rightly said. Sometimes in mature intumescent cataracts, we are a little hesitant to put too much pressure on the anterior lens capsule. That could be one of the reasons why we had one case that I showed that the anterior lens capsule tag actually remained uncut. So that could be that there was a differential pressure, how much pressure we were applying on one side as compared to the other side. That could be the reason why it happened.
What I have heard is that they have come out with different rings. They come out with the 5.5 and now.
I just spoke with the company person. They said that they are not going to come out with different sizes. The size is going to be 5.2, but in 2 months' time or so, they are coming up with a sleeker design of the handpiece. So he said that in 2 months, the new handpiece will be available, which would be much more ergonomic for the surgeons. But with respect to the size, I asked him precisely because I think even a 4.5 mm in the pediatric cataracts where we can use it for a PCC might be helpful. But he said that doesn't look like it's in the pipeline. That's from the company's side, sir.
My question to Dr. Harbanslal and Dr. Naushish from both. So when the rexis get extended, and do you advocate or do you prefer supracapsular phaco surgery? You take out the lens out of the bag and then do it?
I don't do it now anymore.
Why?
So earlier, when the posterior segment surgeon were not very confident of removing the nucleus from the vitreous, and we were too scared and no support of the posterior. I know that we used to mechanically remove whole of the nucleus without fragmentotome. That was a very traumatic surgery. Now I'm very sure that if it drops down, the posterior segment surgeon can remove it. So why damage the cornea unnecessarily more?
No, sir. No, sir.
Just I'm coming. Just I'm coming to that. So one is that when you try to bring it supracapsular, there are more chances you come closer to the cornea. Secondly, I also feel that the bag, when you debulk the bag, when the vitreous size will come forward, it may extend the rexis backwards more than when there is something inside the bag. So when the nucleus is in the capsule of Fornices, it keeps the posterior capsule pressed back. So when you remove the nucleus out of the bag, that means now the posterior capsule can come forward and tear can get extended backwards. So the supra. So my hypothesis is that I do not.
Harbans, what would you do if it was a black-brown cataract? There, I think one should change to an extracapsular technique or the SICS technique, which these people have been very used to. And not with a brown cataract. You want even the brown cataract for posterior segment surgeons is not very easy even with a fracture.
No, you are right.
If you have the rexis extended to the periphery, the best way, if it is a hard, if you can gently crack into the pieces, then back, it's okay. Otherwise, you just can rotate it out in the supracapsular area, and it is not so near to the cornea. It is just over the back.
Over the iris, just over the iris.
Yes, so just over the cornea.
Yeah.
And it is so depending on your extension and your expertise, it is safer if you are not for the beginner. It is better safe to come supracapsular instead of manipulating and again landing up into the posterior chamber trouble.
Yeah.
Have you had experience with the loop?
Another drawback of supracapsular is that the nucleus is not very stable when you are trying to push it, trenches, hold it. So in the capsule of Fornices, it is far more stable as compared to this supracapsular. So I usually initially I used to do supracapsular, but now I prefer to do where it is.
But that is stable because of the stress on the zonules. When your zonules are weak, there is a it's difficult. It is not possible to give stress.
Everybody has got its own way of doing it.
Yeah,
definitely. Whatever way is your comfort. That is what is the beauty of the discussion, that you have to find your own comfort zone.
Harbans, have you tried the loop, the wire loop by which you can cut the nucleus? You know, the Zeiss has come out with a nylon loop. Where you can go insert it behind the lens and then cut the nucleus into half
it is a snare method.
Yes, snare. That was the snare initially.
Now they have come out with a snare which is much more forgiving to the posterior capsule. That's what they say.
No, sir. It's very good.
Huh?
I have not used. I have seen it. Dr. Anil Shah in Jalgaon is very expert, sir. Snare technique.
With the normal snare or with this modified snare by Zeiss?
His own innovation. He has been practicing about more than 20 years now. Even routine surgery he does with the snare earlier. Now, of course, with the phaco, it's a different thing. But the snare, and then few years back, the snare was used to cut the IOL in the NTH.
Yeah.
And that field was awarded the best prize in ASCRS in that category. So they used the snare to cut the lens.
Okay.
And it was to be expanded. Steel wire, very small, thin wire.
Sir, I have a question for the femtosecond laser users. I want to ask, suppose we are doing a manual rexis and we have an extension and we have this kind of an issue. Can we, after making the rexis, take the patient to the femtosecond laser to cut the nucleus into different quadrants so that it becomes safer to aspirate? Is it possible to do that?
No, because
I would never do that, Ikeda. I would never take the patient from a sterile zone to an unsterile zone. And people have been doing that with malignant rings and other things that the small pupil, they put a malignant ring and then take a patient.
Exactly.
I have never done it because I feel that we are in a completely sterile zone, and then to go to a semi-sterile zone is not desirable.
And software will not permit, because it has to locate the cornea, it has to locate the anterior capsule, posterior capsule. If your anterior capsule is not visible, it will not go forward.
Thank you, sir.
One question. How do you find this your Zepto, especially the shallow chamber? Because when the hypermature shallow, that
Yeah.
Shallow chambers are always a problem actually, no matter what technique we use apart from femto. Either we are doing Zepto or we are doing a manual Rexis. If we have a shallow chamber, of course, it becomes a little bit difficult. Even getting the Zepto probe in is a little bit challenging. We can use a little bit more of viscoelastic, make sure that the incision size is 2.2, not more than that, because 2.2 is enough to get the Zepto probe in. Those are the few things that we can do. But of course, because we have a device already inside the chamber, so these cases are a little bit more difficult, especially if the chamber is very shallow.
Use the cohesive viscoelastic, it will be much better because the cohesive viscoelastic maintains the chamber much better in these cases.
And another thing, what you can do is keep on a viscoelastic strings ready from the side port. So what I do is that you take a viscoelastic, you stabilize the globe from the side port with a viscoelastic strings loaded. So anytime you feel the chamber is becoming shallower while doing it, you feel not comfortable, you inject the viscoelastic inside.
Harbans, you said that the case that you did, the pressure was 65, 70. No, and then you did a massage and all. Or did you take the pressure just before starting the case?
See, the intraocular pressure is not so important as compare the vitreous, swollen vitreous actually. Reason is that once you open the eye, once you draw the fluid, the pressure in any case is going to go down. It is the vitreous upthirst which is important. So Dr. Nausher and my generation doctors will remember it, that when we started doing the super pinky, peribulbar block and all those things, ECC era. So at that time, it was taught to us that the mannitol reduces the vitreous volume by 7%. As super pinky reduces the vitreous volume by 40%. Because in ECC era, the PC tear was very common. And because if the posterior capsule is convex and the eye is open, and the pressure of the globe will push the capsule up. So what if the posterior capsule is concave, the vitreous volume is low, even if the eye collapses, the capsule will go behind. So whereas the Diamox, that was the reason they said there is no role of a Diamox whatsoever, because in any case pressure is going to go zero when you open the eyeball. So Diamox is only role is for decreasing the post-op hike of the IOP. Not during the surgery, it helps nothing during the surgery whatsoever. So
but Harbans, on 60 pressure applying against super pinky, it is increasing so you are compromising the blood supply. So another good option is do the pars plana vitrectomy. I used to do the pars plana vitrectomy in this type of shallow chamber, and so
I agree with Dr. Chaudhary.
I'm coming to it because that was not the topic of discussion. So initially we do the peribulbar massage gently, and slowly over a period of time, I already mentioned 15 minutes. So that means nowadays we don't have that much of a patience to wait for 15 minutes, but you believe me, just don't take super pinky, just do a hand massage for 15 minutes and you'll find that the eye has become soft. You will find that and we have done, in many cases, and it is the vitreous volume, not the IOP, which is important in these cases.
Yes.
But Dharmans, it is just 3 millimeters behind the limbus. If you just put in a vitrectomy probe, not with anything else, but just a cutter, cutter reduces the volume quite a bit. We have just a cutter there. You don't have to do
exactly
to do that.
Surgery becomes so smooth.
Step, no? Vitreous step with 23 got needle. Vitreous step.
But the vitreous step may give some traction on the retina because of the vitreous fiber.
But 25 gauge,
the cutter will give very smooth. It is very simple procedure. You can do that suture-like vitrectomy cutter inside.
Yes. Anyway, go through.
Not a great thing about the suture. The thing is that to decompress the vitreous.
I agree with you, but it's just said and done actually type of a thing. Because every time everybody talks, but I've never seen anybody doing it. Very few people do it.
I'm doing.
You are primarily Rajiv is primarily a posterior segment trained surgeon. It is entirely different because the type of the anterior segment surgeon with the phaco machine, its cutter which is not being used, because you are not having a vitrectomy machine, and the cutter many times they give the cutter which is coaxial, which is very bulky. So having a 27 gauge cutter with your phaco machine always may not be an option. And so this is a, but giving a mannitol, waiting for 15 minutes, giving a massage can lower the vitreous volume quite effectively in many of the cases. So it's a very good to do
Now you have a
but then even if you are going to do vitrectomy, it should not be a substitute to what I am talking. That means it could be additional point, but not that you had a 50 pressure and you straight away go and do this thing.
Don't tell me you have a vitreous support also now. Don't tell me you can't do the complicated case like this with a vitreous surgeon doing with a little backup on that day. You don't get these cases every day.
Yes, you don't get it. And sir, I tell you, one case, I tell you, let us ask our junior surgeon to do practice on blind eye. One is enough. Let us break their fear. They should go through the past prana. Very simple. Only one time blind eye, when they enter, their fear will go away. And we get so many blind eyes, so many times.
This is a good discussion, I think, Harbans.
Do we have a last speaker, sir?
Is the last speaker coming? Or? There's a question for Rajiv.
Yeah.
There's a question for Rajiv.
Yes. Yes.
What about your free flap? You get a free flap with your machine every time?
You can say it is a 90% times it is the free flap. I am using the Lensar machine. That is very good. Many times it is slightly adherent. Rarely I am using since last 5 years, and it is very rarely that I got some incomplete. Either might be some fibrous capsule or something like that. Otherwise, it is a good Rexis, and it hardly take a 3 seconds for the completion of the Rexis part.
Tell me about the incision. Does it make a good incision, or most of them make much more anterior incision? And
that requires much more anterior. That requires much more corneal incision. So it is your choice, because incision not whether you want to go for the incision or not. It is not going to make any much difference. So
because we have touted it as a bladeless technique, but most of the time we have to use.
No, we are not promoting as a bladeless. We are directly promoting as a femto laser surgery, not bladeless.
Just Dr. Rajiv, Dr. Khokar is in. Please let him have his presentation.
Okay.
I welcome Dr. Khokar, and please Khokar, share your screen, please.
Just 1 second.
Yeah, share your screen.
Just a second. I'm visible, audible now?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Just 1 second. Okay, so hi guys.
Hi.
Okay, here we go. Sorry, the glitches. My net was down. Can you see my slides, please? Now.
Yeah. Visible.
Okay, here we go. So management of the anterior axis, as well as I'll cover the posterior axis also if the time allows. I'm talking about the softer cataracts. Soft cataract means the softest you can get is a patient who's born, and within a month, within hours, you have to operate. A patient of an ROP patient which comes with a cataract, or an ROP patient, and when you started giving intravitreal at the back. I did yesterday 2 patients in which the touch at the back and the cataract has to be done. These few hours old capsule versus 80 years and 90 years old capsule, I think there's a different ball game, because of the collagen changes, everything, all the nature changes. Something like the egg which you put in the boiling water. When the egg is soft, it's a different protein. When it gets boiled, it's a different ball game altogether. So how do you go about? So whenever you want to manage anterior capsule rhexis in a soft cataract or an intumescent white cataract, I think you've got to be on the guard, because there's a thrust from the lens which is trying to come out. Second thing, the pediatric anterior capsule behaves differently. It's more elastic. It's like it stretches, it doesn't rex that easily. And when you want to apply extra force, it will run off. So the rhexis, anterior rhexis shape of the pediatric or the soft cataract has to be important, because if the shape is bigger, your lenses will come out of the bag and they'll get captured and cause more havoc. And especially in the younger age group, when the power is still changing and the lens bag changes, you're in trouble. So you have to get a 5mm rhexis. That is the standard. So how do you decide 5mm? Because what you see on the cornea is not same as what you get in the middle. So there's a magnification factor of 1.25. So you can use ultrafine on the surface, or you can use high-end microscopes like Callistos. We are blessed to have those ones, and they can project and do it. So basically, okay, now this is what you can use Utrata forceps. But the important thing here is the incisions have to be very small. And I think I'll go to the video. Now, if you see this video, that's the anterior capsule dome and that's the posterior capsule. Anterior capsule is a convex anterior capsule. So that means the chamber has to be overfilled. So it pushes the anterior capsule down flatter. The flatter it is, the less chance of it's running out. And on the posterior capsule is the other way around. If you overfill it, it will run off. So we'll come to that later. So what you need to do is a good viscoelastic, which fills it up properly. So here we go. All right, so you need to have a nicks on the side, make smaller nicks, and always try to stain this capsule, because when you stain the capsule, the elasticity goes down to some extent and it becomes more manageable. So I come for the side port and give a nick and just leave it. I did not go and complete it. You notice one thing, I stopped it here because my rhexis is vertical now. So I come for the main incision, and this is for the beginners I'm telling, because if they have high molecular viscoelastic, they can do it with this. Otherwise, come on, let's go. Okay, so I'm replacing the entire anterior chamber content out. I don't want a duality of the chamber. I don't want two viscoelastic. I don't want a fluid inside. Otherwise, it will run off. So you have to have a single refractive index from the middle. So replace the entire thing. So you give the nick, you come from the main port. For the beginners, you can use a Utrata forceps because you're used to using in the routine cases. But your viscoelastic has to be high, say 5 million molecular weight. So Heron, GV, everything is fine. Okay, so what you notice here is my central disc is about 5 millimeter. I'm going around it and I'm grasping it again and again, and I'm holding it so gingerly, like I use my putter for the golf putting. And there it completes. Try not to rush it. If you try to rush the rhexis, it will always run off. Now see, that is a 5 millimeter rhexis. The trick is to grasp it again and again, and the chamber should not lose its stability. If the chamber loses stability, your rhexis is going to run off. The important thing, most important thing here is if the chamber goes down, and if, for example, if you don't have a viscoelastic of high molecular weight, so what do? So then you can use a longer forceps, but your incisions will be smaller. Now I just got 2 stab incisions. My Utrata went from a 2.2 incision. Now this one is only 1.2 millimeter incision both. You see that little bubble trapped there, that's okay. But now what I'm using is methyl cellulose and forceps, which is going from a 1.2 millimeter opening. Now see, my forceps handle is a long handle, whereas Utrata is a short handle. It's a better control. So all the people who are doing VR surgery, they are quite used to this, but for the anterior segment, because the anterior space also is less, you have to get used to this longer forceps. Right? So it's something like eating your noodles with the chopsticks versus a fork. Fork, you always can grasp it and eat it very easily like a spoon because you've been trained for that. The Chinese might think the other way around. So you see with this also, you can get the Utrata. So in case you don't have a good heavy methyl cellulose, you can use methyl cellulose only and make side ports and just get away with that. So you see how easily I've got. Again, the trick is to hold it again and again. Try not to finish off in one go because it's not possible, because it's so stretchy, it will always run off. Okay, so this is what I was trying to tell you. So the rhexis for the beginners, I think it's better to use a fork or a Utrata forceps and use a little heavier molecular weight OVD, but later on you can switch over to a longer forceps, and which is what we do now. So now then once this is done, we'll go to the posterior rhexis and then I'll finish off. So posterior rhexis, we always do a posterior rhexis in kids who are more than 6 years and above. And if I have a patient who's a mentally challenged, who's got a head nodding and nystagmus, who I'm sure is not going to sit on the YAG ever, I'll do a PCC. Even the patient comes to me at 25, 30 years of age, and they're happy a lot, because when you do the YAG in the moving eye, you always pit up the lenses and cause more problem to the optics of the lens. So this is the video now which I'm showing. Now, which I showed you again, is that you see the posterior curvature is concave posteriorly. If I overfill it, one thing, the girl is going to go farther away. And second, the posterior capsule will open up the moment I give it a nick, because it's the reverse of the top of the hill phenomena. So here we go, and just see this video now. So I'm making the chamber formed, but I'm just making the chamber. I'm putting it on the iris and a very little amount in the center, so that the anterior dome actually gets pushed and becomes flatter. Do not overfill the posterior the bag. If you overfill the bag, this will always run off. So I come from the side port, again give a nick and push it off, and you see how elastic it is. And again, similarly, I'm again coming from there to the main incision now. And here I'm using always the longer forces, because the distance has gone up and there's more volume with me now, and I can control it. You see, if you don't overfill the posterior rexus, everybody is scared of doing the capsular rexus, posterior one, but I think that's much easier than doing the anterior capsular rexus. So anterior capsular rexus, if your chamber goes shallow, there's a chance of running off. Here, your capsule is as such as chamber is shallow. You don't want it shallow. You don't want it to be overinflated. Otherwise, posterior capsule will go further away. And you see how easily it happened. In my last 30-year careers, I had just had twice posterior rexus running off, and my still anterior capsule runs off sometimes when there's a leak or there's a sudden surge, or the anesthesia is not good, the patient is squeezing. So posterior rexus, please do not be scared. And all the patient, even in the adults, in case you think they can't come back on the YAG, or that you can't give them anesthesia again to do a capsulotomy at the back, head nodding, nystagmus, or this Parkinson patient, please open up posterior capsule central 3 millimeter. You don't have to do vitrectomy in these patients, and if you do PCC, you'll be happier. So the grip has to be gentle. Underfilled anterior caps, the bag, the chamber can be filled, but initially we used to give a nick and put viscoelastic behind the posterior capsule, and people have started were doing that. But we realized because there are duality of the because of the duality there of the viscoelastic, you can have it running off again. So to avoid that, you be gentle there, and do not use dye for the posterior capsule, because it will become more thinned out, and the moment you hold it fragile, it will break off. So earlier we started that whenever you used to hold it to break off, and when we were putting the implant in, the capsule used to run off. But since we stopped using the dye for the posterior capsule and underfilling the bag and properly filling the chamber, I think anybody and everybody can do this soft cataract. And I'd like to thank Dr. Harbans Lal to give me the opportunity and congratulate him on winning the election. And my time has got 7 minutes and I'm done. Please, any questions, I'm free to answer, please. Thank you.
It was a very excellent tip on posterior capsular rexus.
Yeah.
And I learned it from you this time, that give a side nick, the nick from the side port, so that you get a vertical edge and you can hold it.
Absolutely.
I think I was doing a mistake trying to push the capsule from the main port, and then I was trying to grab it. It will not come very easily.
Absolutely.
So that's a fantastic tip. And of course, that I realized long time back, that the posterior capsule, you should not put too much of a viscoelastic when you are doing PCC, because it gets pushed backwards.
Sure.
But then you added on to that, you can put on a viscoelastic towards the periphery, so that the central part, if possible, slightly gets lifted up if possible. But that's a very, 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 very good tip. A small but excellent tip for all of us. And any other question from the audience to Dr. Khokar?
Sure. I'll be more than happy to answer. We
Sorry.
do what
Sir, if you have a fluid vitreous, maybe high myopic eye, and suppose you happen to do this posterior capsulotomy, do you expect the vitreous to prolapse into the anterior chamber? I mean, through that opening, or have you come across and
Sure. See, I'm talking about, yes, if there's a thrust and the eye is under pressure, your vitreous the chance it coming out. So whenever you plan the posterior capsular rexus, I think your vitrectomy has to be ready. You can't do the surgery and these ones because you can't judge which is the eye in which it's going to come. So it has to be ready, because then most of the machines have it. So yes, in the pediatric, because the vitreous is well formed, if you don't touch the vitreous, it's not going to touch you, it's not going to bother you. But in the adults, and especially if it's an intermittent cataract and posterior rexus is being planned, those ones, I think even if it doesn't come, it's better to cut it off and go under the margin all 360 degrees with the vitrectomy, so that the capsule falls back and there are no scaffolds. We are basically want to take the stairs away. If we remove the stairs, nobody can climb the terrace. So we are trying to remove under the capsules, especially in myopic eyes. I mean, you should do that, because few tags there can cause the issue.
Till what is you do vitrectomy in pediatric cases?
Okay, so till the age of 6-7 years, I'm doing everything. But after 6 to 7 years, and we stop doing. And in case my posterior anterior rexus goes bigger than 5.5 mm, my lens is going to come out. In those patients, I intentionally change my lens to 3-piece lens and do optic capture. Otherwise, 6 years is what is the dictum. And now there's a new technique people have started doing in the younger kid also, that they don't do the vitrectomy, but do the PCC and tuck the lens 3-piece at the back. But that has just started. It's a difficult technique. And I think a single piece in the bag, the proper piece, PCC and vitrectomy is the way to go.
Sir, I
would. Amount of the vitrectomy you are doing, amount of the vitrectomy, how deep you go, how periphery, because it is a small rexus, you cannot go much sideways.
So we don't need to go sideways. I think central up your 3.5 millimeter and go about a 3 millimeter deep, that's 2.5 to 3 is good enough. But the trick is that you come from the side ports with the cutter facing downwards, go under the 360-degree margins of
On the
rexis
both
all
sides.
along.
Both
Just
sides.
both, for one side and the other side, so that the scaffold is gone and it just falls back. If
Sir,
you
sir, what
want, I can show you.
Sir, what I do in a pediatric patients, no, I first put the lens inside, in the bag, whatever it is. And then with the 23 gauge cutter, I go to the limbus, lift up the lens a little bit and do a central capsulotomy. That's all, and take it out.
Yeah, see, this is what all my British friends and Australian friends are doing the same, what you said. And so you're working like a foreigner here. But when I went there for live surgery, I showed them this technique to do the rexis and then put the implant. They actually liked it because you have a well-controlled vitrectomy and the size of the rexis is good and the lens is not going to go anywhere because you're putting the lens later on. Please try that one and I'm sure you'll be happy. All the paper, wherever I presented all over the world, they have all switched over to this technique and they're happy and they give me the feedback. I've been doing about a 15-year for the last 30 years now. So Harbans has picked me. So I can't say no to Harbans because he's Harbans Lal. Now we're proud to have you as a vice president. And I think there are lots of things to be talked. We'll discuss later. But yes, you've done a great job. Very good.
Okay, I think now the time is over. Where is our hall coordinator?
Yes, I'm here, sir, just listening to all of you. Thank you so much for such an informative session and also sharing your expertise with all of us and experience as well. So indeed, it was a pleasure listening to all of you. So here I conclude that this session is over and now we can move to our next session. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
everybody.
Harbans. Bye.
Thank
Kumar.
you,
Harbans.
Naushad.
Bye.
How are you? All well?
All well, all well.
Take care.
Okay.
Hi, Dr. Rajiv. Dr. Harbans, stay
Hi,
safe.
hi. All right.
Please stay safe. Thank you. Bye-bye. God bless.
Bye.